सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तं वन्दे गुरुपरम्परा मूकं करोति वाचालं समारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मत्. Man, this is one problem. Okay. I think I'll start it all over again and then delete it from the YouTube. Om Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Parampara Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Paramananda Madhavam. Om. So, welcome to the Bhagavad Gita class again, and we are in the 12th shloka of the first chapter in Bhagavad Gita. The shloka goes like this. I don't know how to remove this, okay. The shloka goes like this. Tasya sanjanayan harsham Kuru vruddha pritpithamahah simhanadam vinadyochaihi shankam dadmau pratapavan. Right, so here we were looking at how the description of who are all there in the battlefield was seen in the previous classes. Here, towards the end, we saw how Duryodhana's confidence of Duryodhana was kind of shaken. For making him more comfortable and to declare the start of the war, the Bheeshma Pitaama, who is the chief of the Kaurava side of army, he blew the conch to announce the commencement of the war. But before he blew the conch, he gave a very loud sound, is the way that this shloka describes the actions of Bhishma Pitama. Tasya, him or his, or of his, right, which is referring to the uncomfortable feeling that Duryodhana was experiencing. Sanjanayan. Sanjanayan is to increase, to make it better, to make it more comfortable. What? Harsham. That is cheerfulness. In order to bring more cheer into the heart of Duryodhan. Kuru vruddha pitamaha. Kuru vruddha is an adjective, one who is the grandsire of Kuru dynasty. Pitamaha, one who is the grandfather, which is Bhishma Pitama. Simhanadam vinadya uchchaihi. Simhanadam is like the sound of a lion, the roaring sound. So he makes a very big roaring sound. Vinadya means basically with complete vigor coming from the bottom of the stomach, as we say. So that kind of a sound that is being done. Uchchaihi, in a very loud voice. He first does this garjana, and then shankam, the conch shell, dadmau, he blew, prathapavan, the valiant. This is an adjective given to Bhishma Pitama. So in this shloka, that is what is being said, which is to increase the cheerfulness in him, as in Duryodhana, the valiant grandsire of Kuru, the Kuru dynasty, Bhishma Pitama, roared like a lion and in a vibrating tone very loudly, and then blew the conch shell. This is the meaning of this shloka. Now, Shankanad has a special position in Sanatana Dharma. There are some sounds which is like, ataha, when we are just going to say, or om, right? Similarly, the sound of shank and the sound of Nadaswara, these are all things which are considered sacred by itself. The sound in itself brings purity into the atmosphere. Right. That's why this Shankanad has got such a big, presence in various things that we do. We will discuss about the Shankanad when we are talking later about, say, Hrishikesham, right, where he will be blowing his conch name, Paanchajanya. Right. So we will look at it again. But herein, we just want to make a mention that this Shankanad has got a very, very high reverence in our culture. And that is the way that any of the auspicious things are started, which also means this war is an auspicious occurrence. Whenever there is a conflict that is between dharma and adharma, where the dharma is trying to establish itself, there the Shankh plays a very important part because it brings about a purity in the atmosphere. It, it aims to uphold the dharma in what we are trying to accomplish or achieve. So once again, a war need not be two people facing each other and fighting a war. It could be well within you as well. When there is a conflict between the dharma and the adharma, it is the purity of the sound which creates the space in you to have the dharma get instilled again. So that is the value that one should keep in mind. We know Bheeshma Pitaama, a very highly respected person in Mahabharata. He was even respected by Lord Krishna, by all the demigods, by all the kings. He was like a natural hero and a leader. He was born as the 8th child of Shantanu and Ganga. The way that it happens is once Shantanu will be going across Ganga when he comes across Ganga in her real form. When he sees Ganga, the beauty attracts him and he falls in love with her. He would like to marry her, but Ganga says that you should not ask any question for whatever I do. And if the day you ask the question, I will leave you and go. He gladly accepts it. And things are all going fine. The first child is born. But as soon as the child is born, Ganga takes the child with her and drowns her in Ganga. He is heartbroken, but because he has made a promise that he will never ask the question, he keeps quiet. And the same thing happens with the second child, the third child, and so on till the 7th child. When the 8th child is born, he gets very disturbed, and when she is about to take the baby and drown the child in Ganga, Shantanu stops her and asks her, "Why are you doing it?" And Ganga says, "As per our promise, you have asked the question. I will not kill this child. I am going to take this child with me. I will raise the child and we will name him as Shantanu." She takes him, she raises him and brings him back after he becomes a youth. That is the way the story goes. And the story behind why Ganga was doing that is because of a shrap given to 8 Vasus. The 8 Vasus are Dyauhu or Prabhasa, which represents the space, Antariksham, Vayuhu or Anilaha, the wind, Agni is the third one, Pavakaha, and Varuna or Apaha for water, Prithvi or Dhara for the earth, Aditya or Pratyusha for sun, Chandramas or Soma for moon, Nakshatrani or Dhruva for the stars. These are the 8 Vasus. Once what these Vasus do is they go and steal the Kamadhenu from sage Vashishta. Once sage realizes that the cows have been stolen, he curses all of these 8 Vasus to be born as humans. Realizing their mistake, they all surrender to uh, the sage Vashishta, and sage Vasishta pardons everyone, saying that, hey, I cannot take back the curse that I have already given. So you will be born, but as soon as you are born, you will be liberated. However, the person who really stole the Kamadhenu was Dhyauhu, the space, the one that is the representative of the space. So he will not be spared. He will live a complete life and will undergo all the sufferings of the human. And that is why throughout in the Mahabharata, you will see that he holds a very high reputation, but he constantly undergoes a lot of pain and sufferings. And that is the way the entire Mahabharata you will see. And because of the Ichha Mrityu that he has, he had to wait for ensuring that all of his sins are dissolved before he liberates himself. That is the way that story goes. To this, the reference is from Mahabharata itself, Adi Parva. We also have some of the instances in Bhagwat Puran, in the 4th Skanda, Vishnu Puran, there are few repetitions, and we can also find it in Harivamsa, which is considered the 19th Parva of Mahabharata. So there are several places this particular story has been narrated. Going back, now after this, Shantanu takes a brahmacharya and he rules exceedingly well. He is declared the emperor of the world without lifting a single weapon. That is the greatness, right? So in an Upanishad, right, there'll be a character by name Ajata Shatru, right? For one to whom an enemy has never been born. And that can only happen when you uphold the Dharma. And there are several stories which keep this particular concept at its pinnacle. And here, because of the just way in which Shantanu ruled from Hastinapura, he became the emperor of the world without lifting a single weapon. Now, let us talk about Ashwameda Yagya. Earlier, in one of the discussions that we were having with the students, right, one of the students was talking about Ashwameda Yagya, where an incorrect interpretation was incorrect, in my opinion, again, in accordance with the teaching that I have got, right? So it is not incorrect. It is, so long as it is not proven, either one of us are not incorrect or correct. Here, I'm just going to try to quote the Ashwamedha Yajna from the Vedic perspective, how it is done, right? So the incorrect interpretation is we perform a yajna, we set the horse free, follow it, and anywhere the horse goes becomes part of your kingdom. This is a very colonialistic mindset of these practices. The Ashwamedha Yajna practice is defined in the Shatapatha Brahmana. This is a key Vedic text associated with Shukla Yajurveda. Now, the purpose of Ashwamedha Yajna. This is a ritual to assert a king's universal sovereignty of dharma. That is the most important thing. It is not to assert my sovereignty, the king's sovereignty. The purpose is to establish dharma as the supreme over anything. This is also a means to ensure the prosperity of the land and the well-beings of the subject. When we perform the Ashwamedha Yajna, it is considered that devas are very pleased. Also, it is considered to be a pathway to obtaining the moksha, or in fact, Swargaloka. It is beyond Swargaloka. Right? So it is such an important yajna. From an adhikari point of view, Both Kshatriya and Brahmana have been given the adhikar to do Ashwameda Yajna. While Kshatriyas are supposed to physically perform this yajna, a Brahmana can do it in the manas, in the manasika manner. Yet again, remember, in the manas itself, the manas becomes the horse and you let it wander. And wherever it wanders, you allow and you follow. And if the mind gets stuck to something, as in, if some attraction is holding your mind up, then it is your duty to fight and liberate the manas from that holding. That is the core about the aspect of sending the or setting the horse free. The horse in the physical form represents a vital energy, prana, right? And it also represents sun. The Upanishad speaks of head of the horse as dawn, eye as the moon, breathing as the vayu, body as the sky and earth, and so on. There are lots of symbolisms that are associated with it. The procedure of performing this yajna is first is consecration of the horse, establish Lord Vishnu and Prajapati on the horse by chanting the three Vedas, Rig, Yajur, and Sama, emphasize the rulership of Dharma on all four directions. This is also done through the mantras that are being chanted. It is not I, as in the king, is set as the ruler. It is the Dharma which is set as the ruler, spread out to the four directions. And then we release the horse for 1 year. The horse wanders. We protect the horse, which means we are protecting the dharma. When attacked, it is the adharma which is attacking the dharma, and hence we engage. Other kingdoms into which the horse wanders, the king of that land welcomes the horse as the form of God and dharma, making offering to the god impersonated on the horse. The offers that other kings make is like welcoming God into their kingdom. When we do the puja too, when we are doing the prana pratishtha and then we start performing our puja, we offer things to the God, right? Of course, we may just say abharanartham akshadan samarpayami or vastrartham akshadan samarpayami, right? So it may be simply akshada that we are doing in our puja, but when we are doing a real puja, we know that vastra means we put the vastram on and so on and so forth. So it is a practice of the Shodasha Upachara Puja wherein you do welcome the God in that manner. So the offers that kings make when the horse enters is an offer that is made to the god. Right? In the yajna, before the horse is released, when the yajna used to be performed, the yajamana, right, in this case Shantanu, would have invited all the kings to come and join. It is also to be really kept in mind that when these kings arrive in your kingdom, you welcome them with the same royalty and also offer them gift. So it is not that I let the horse go and I accept gifts or I accept money. It is when the kings are coming into my area, I offer them. And similarly, when the dharma is reaching their kingdom, they honor it and they give whatever the gift that are required. Nowhere in the Shastra there is a mention of taxes or any kind of subordination to the Yajaman. Right? Again, the Sarvesham Lokanam Swamitvaya Ashwamedha is the mantra that is chanted. It is to represent the entire Loka. Right? And it's a beautiful one. After a year, the return of the uh, horse happens. When this happens, we have avabhrita snanam, right? This body part symbolically, what they do is, it may be the real horse itself, or because it's not too very clear, but there are places where it is said it is based on the made of soil, like a pot, clay, or something like that, or it is made of wood and stuff like that. So there are instances where the horse is symbolically represented, but it is not too clear whether they really cut the horse or what. Basically, when the horse comes in, the body parts of the horse are cut into pieces and they are put on different directions. Okay, so that is the way it is done. The core value is it is Kshatriya Dharma to establish supremacy of Dharma over Adharma. It is not my kingdom's supremacy. I have to win over the other person, right? Or I must own that particular piece of land, right? So that is never the intent of the Vedic traditions. Ashwameda Yajna is performed only after you establish the dharma in your kingdom, which means not just in your kingdom. It means it is also all the relationships that you establish with your neighboring kingdoms and eventually carry a natural leadership among that society, among that group. Because it is important that, if there are someone else coming in, we are supposed to come together to fight, right? If there is going to be a third party who is going to attack, right? So that is the key behind this Ashwamedha Yajna, wherein it is across nations or across kingdoms that we bring about a togetherness to establish dharma, right? Affirmation of sovereignty, promotion, establishment of dharma, political diplomacy, right? The relationship that you establish with neighboring kingdoms, right? All these are aspects which bring about a beauty to Ashwamedha Yajna. Coming back to our story, Devavrata's childhood, right? Shantanu announces Devavrata, who is, I don't know whether I said Shantanu previously when I was talking about the child. Now that I think of it, I was wrong. Obviously, it was an error. It was a slip in the mind. So the child is Devavrata that Ganges names and takes him with her, and she returns him back. He is trained under sage Vasishta and Parashurama. He was very, very strong in Dharma Shastra, Artha Shastra, and Yuddha Shastra. Shantanu proudly announces Devavrata to be the crown prince, which was celebrated by all. Everyone is glad because of the greatness that Devavrata has always shown. At this time, Shantanu comes across Satyavati, daughter of Dasharaja, a chief fisherman. Now, he wants to marry her, but Dasharaja says only the children born to Satyavati will have the right to rule. Now, Shantanu even gives an assurance that, yeah, okay, right. It is, in fact, Shantanu becomes very dejected and he comes back. And seeing his dejection, the Devavrata or Bhishma, he approaches to find out what has happened, realizes that this is the whole event behind it. So Devavrata goes to Dasharaja and tells him that he will take this prajna of not taking the kingdom. Then the Dasharaja says, well, you may be gracious and say that you will forego the kingdom. But what about your children? They are not going to agree to that. They may say that I am the, what do you say, just king for it, and it is just going to create chaos. I don't think this is going to work. Then he takes a promise, a oath, saying that I will never marry, number one. Number two is I will always serve and protect the Kuru kingdom. Right. So this is what was considered to be one of the biggest of the promises. And so everybody called him Bhishma. Then to Satyavati and Shantanu are born Chitrangada and Vichitravirya. Chitrangada is crowned, but shortly after is killed in a war with Gandharvas. Vichitravirya is then crowned. Right. Then Kashi Raja's Swayamvara for Amba, Ambalika, etc. happens, and Bhishma restores the Kuru kingdom's honor. Then all these things happen where Amba, when he brings her from Kashi Raja's place, Amba reveals that she is already in love with Shalya, I think, the king, Salva kingdom, right? So she is already in love with King Salva, and she says, "I cannot marry Vichitravirya because I am already in love with him." So Bhishma says, "Okay, let me take you back to King Salva." Taking back to King Salva says, "I cannot accept Amba because you have won, and as a Kshatriya, having lost, I have no hold over taking it back." So now Amba turns back to Bhishma and says, "No, you have to marry me." Right? So Bhishma says, "No, I have a promise, so I cannot marry you." But then Amba goes to his guru, Parashuram, and Parashuram says, "Ask him to marry. Tell him this is my direction." So she comes to Bhishma with that direction, and he says, "No, I cannot marry." No, Parashuram is, taking it up. He becomes very upset with the way that Bhishma has declined the instructions of the guru. So they both get into a war. It's a very beautiful place where uh, Bhishma will, as soon as this war is being announced, being a Kshatriya, he goes to fight the war. As he goes, he will see Parashuram walking. So he gets down from the chariot and says, "This is not an equal fight, and we cannot fight this war because I am in a chariot and you are walking." Right? So this is against the rule of the war. So please come in a chariot, is the way that he will put it. Then Parashuram will say, "Okay, look at me." And when he looks at Parashuram, he is standing with the sun as the chariot and the sun rays as the horses that are driving, and the whole earth is the base, and so on and so forth. So it is the entire kind of Vishwarupa of the Bhagavan is seen in Parashuram. The beauty of it is because as a Kshatriya, he continues his dharma. He bows down to the god and takes the blessings and goes back to fight the war with Parashuram. It will be that beautiful. It is a 23-day war. And on the 23rd day, right, there is a Prasava Pastram, which is, it is it is sent. He uses Bhishma uses this, but this is extremely dangerous, and so God's request the withdrawing of the astra, and Bhishma withdraws the astra too. Seeing this, Parashuram concedes. Some call it as they defeat, some call it as it is a stalemate. It has no clear ending as to who has won or who has not won. But the place where the text ends is to say that as soon as this happens, Parashuram withdraws. And withdrawing is definitely considered as a defeat, but not under these circumstances. So it is a very, dharam sankat kind of a situation, but that is the concluding aspect of that story. The emphasis here is Bhishma's stance with respect to dharma, Bhishma's intelligence and the understanding of the concepts of dharma, and never shying away or walking away from it, holding up to his promises at all times. A person who has won several wars. A person who has stood by the kingdom of Hastinapur no matter what. So he maintains that at all times. This is the reason why he doesn't speak up when Draupadi is, insulted in the court. Even though Duryodhan's brother Vikarna speaks up, Bhishma Pitama does not, because in the presence of the king, he is not supposed to speak. He cannot influence the king. The king, it has to be someone who rules and leads. That is the basis of the dharma. And again, it is a very debatable topic, how the dharma can be classified in this place. But it is very beautifully done where Gandhari speaks out, right? And she, being the queen, has the right to speak up as well. So she is the one who interjects, stops, and brings about a settlement. A very beautiful thing when we start analyzing, that is the way that it goes. The purpose of telling all these things was to speak about the greatness of Bhishma, who throughout this Mahabharata can be cherished. His end comes to with Amba's pratigna. Now that Amba is not married, she lets go of her life. But before that, she prays to Lord Shiva and gets a boon to become the cause of Bhishma's death. In the following birth, she is born as a daughter of King Drupad, Shikandini. Then she transfers her gender into a male and she is called as Shikandi. Shikandi is used as a shield for Arjuna because Bhishma has, dharma, he will not harm a woman. So he is unable to fight while Arjuna is able to hide behind Shikandi and bring Bhishma's down. When we talk of Bhishma, remember these words: Tyagaha, strength to sacrifice anything for one's duty. Arjavam, honesty and straightforwardness. Satyam, upkeep of promise at all cost. Amanitvam, not expressing or living in self-pride. Abhayam, fearlessness. Ahimsa, not doing just or unjust harm to anybody. Kshantihi, perseverance. And we can see all these as qualities. Even as I speak, you will be able to recollect several instances of Bhishma which establishes these great qualities of Bhishma. Moving on to the 13th shloka. Tatha shankaschа bhairyascha panavanak-gomukhaः sahasaivaabhyahanyanta sashabdastu So, tatah, thereafter, shankhaha, the conch shells, which means several of them. Bhairyaha, large drums. Panavanaka, the small drums and the kettle drums. Gomukhaha, the, it is like a horn which is in the shape of a cow's mouth. Sahasa eva, all of a sudden, abhyahantaha, simultaneously sounded. Abhi is an upasarga. Han is generally the root for hanti, to kill, but here it is hanyata, right? They were played is the verb form of it that it will come. So all of them started playing. That sound, saha shabdaha tumulaha abhavat, right, became loud and confusing. Right. So in everything being played at the same time, as soon as the announcement has come, everyone started getting into that mood of fighting. And that was sent out in terms of the drums and the horns and other kind of sounds that were played to induce the situation into a war front. So here, let us just understand, why do we make sound? Believe me, this is a practice even today. right? Prabhakar can speak to it. So when we do the bayonet practice, we always have to shout and use the bayonet, right? Even when they are into the front line attack, they shout and go, right? So it is a very, very practice. It is in practice even today because it is the natural way of human to work, right? So dharma exists in all of us and it is self-revealing. This is one thing that we have to understand. There are several instances where a person is considered to be bad, be it Hitler or Saddam Hussein, or in some's mind, even Modi or others. I have seen that, people have that this person is bad. There is a beautiful Upanishad where it establishes that it is the pranan which is pure at all times. Right. So the story goes like this, where the Asuras and Devas are in a fight, and the Asuras attack Devas. The Devas will go and hide in the ice, and the Asuras will attack it. That is why the ice is seeing both good and bad. It goes into the nose, the same thing. The smell is good and bad, and so on. And then, as a last resort, they go and hide in the pranan. When the asuras come to attack the pranan, the asuras are broken into or are shattered to pieces, like what happens when a clay is thrown uh, on a rock. That is the way that Upanishad goes, right? They just get shattered. The emphasis there is the pranan of everyone is pure. And there is another way of putting it, which is this pranan represents that righteousness, that dharma. And this dharma exists in all and it is self-revealing. When a person progresses on adharma, it is inspired by that individual ego that emerges from them. It is the rajasic and tamasic influence which makes us slip from the path of dharma. That is why we say the path to liberation is remove the adharma that naturally stems in you. This could be due to vasanas from the previous birth. It could be because of the ahambhava, or it could just be because of the guna adhikya, right? Because the rajasic guna is pravritti at this time, or tamasic is very much in prevalence right now. Your duty is to consciously follow the path of dharma, right? They say today's world, the word of mindfulness is used. Develop the adhikaratvam, which is sadhana chatushtaya sampatti, vivekam, vairagyam, shamadhi shatka sampatti, which is shamam, damam, paramam, right? Titiksha, shraddha, samadhanam. And then eventually the fourth one is mumukshutva. Develop the desire in you to learn. The last part of it is the most beautiful, which will come in the 66th Shloka of Bhagwat Gita's 18th chapter as well. Sarva dharman parityajya. Let go of the bondage that you hold with dharma as well. Then you get the nishta. Coming back to the sound, war is inevitable. Now, the conflict between whenever I see the I as this body, or whenever I see the duality existing in front of me. Right? The Upanishad says, Dvitiyatvai bhayam bhavati. If you encounter the two, the samsara is very naturally going to occur in you. As soon as that bhayam occurs in you, there is a sense of protecting yourself, and that leads to the adharma. Not always. I'm not saying that that intent to protect myself is going to lead you to adharma. That is the seed for us to be on the adharmic path. Right. Now, we have also seen in dharma, we have Saamaanya Dharma and Vishesha Dharma, and that there is Vishesha Dharma which takes over the Saamaanya Dharma, etc. Now, in the Saamaanya Dharma, Ahimsa is called the Paramo Dharma. This is considered the highest form of dharma, which means it is even at the level of Vishesha Dharma competing. And this ahimsa is something which is very self-revealing. Right? You may want to do himsa for people whom you don't consider yours, but you'll never want to do ahimsa for people whom you consider yours. That aspect of ahimsa is something so personal and very, very intimate to us. Now, the Vishesha Dharma requires you to break this Paramo Dharma. Right? So, when we are doing this, we have to engage in that ahimsa in a dharmic way, right? And that is displayed throughout the Mahabharata as well, right? So long as Bhishma Pitama was there, right? It's amazing there. Lord Krishna as a charioteer will go to attack Bhishma Pitama, and Bhishma Pitama, who will be so valiantly fighting, will stop his fight and bow down to Lord Krishna as the god. Think in terms of it. If in case my intent was to go, kill, win, I will not be able to be in this balance. To be in this balance means that I am fighting the war of dharma. The ahimsa that I'm doing is within the bound of dharma. And that is what is the thing that needs to get induced. We spoke about Shankhanad earlier, like similar to Om or similar to Nadaswara, etc. This Shankhanad in itself is a purifier, right? When a mind is pure, it will not do adharma, right? So Shankhanad helps you to purify yourself, while the other sound inspires you to overcome the Saamaanya Dharma and take up the Vishesha Dharma. So the reason why they make so much of sound in the war is this. Long story, but I think there is a lot of great value that we can think about. Now equate the same thing in your mind. Remember, we are here not to learn about how the war was conducted, what is dharma in war, etc. That is not the subject matter. Here we are pursuing Atma Gyan. The same thing, the same warfare, the same conflict, the same enemy, the dualistic approach, the same non-wholesome approach. All those things are there in your heart, which is resulting in a conflict between dharma and adharma. Ensure that you have a good knowledge of dharma. When you don't have, seek a guru and try to find out, and do not take the words of the guru. Take that which you understand and realize. Question the guru as much as you want. Even deny, go the opposite direction of what the guru has guided you. But understand the dharma and become one with that dharma. It is not, when you do that to a guru, you're not going to negate the guru. It is just that you are going to take the perspective that is applicable from the guru and not the solution. Dharma is that vision, right? Not the solution, not an action. If in case I'm going to tell you that, hey, you do this action and then you are in dharma, then I'm myself wrong. But that could be the best way I could have expressed it. It is your duty to understand the tatparya, the concept behind that communication, and apply that concept of dharma in your action by your own realization. And this is a very, very important value. Everything that we discussed with respect to the sound and the war, etc., today is applicable in your heart. There is Shankhanad in your heart, and there is other sound in your heart as well. There is dharma and there is adharma, and there is a conflict. Being able to stand with the dharma, Atmavan Bhava, and overcome that adharma is the thing that we are trying to drive by these examples. This is purely an example, the war, but the intent is identifying your core, yourself. Moving on. The 14th shloka is Tata Shvetair Hayair Yukte Mahatasyandane Sthithau Madhavav Pandavaschaiva Divyau Shankau Pradadmatuhu. So here, after the Kuru warriors, the Kurus in the battlefield, the Pandava side of the army has started the same exercise. Tataha, thereafter, Shvetaihi Hayaihi Yuktehe, bound by Yuktehe, Hayaihi, Shvetaihi. Shvetaihi is white, Hayaihi is harsh, because it makes the sound, as simple as that. Right? So, Shvetaihi Hayaihi Yukte Mahati Syandhane. Right? It means the great chariot. Syandhane is the chariot. Right? Mahat is glorious, great, wonderful, big, etc. Right? So, Sthithau is situated in Madhavaha, Lord Krishna, Pandavaha, which is Arjuna, the son of Pandu, Cha, and Eva, indeed, Divyau Shankau, their respective conch shells, Pradad Matuhu, they blew, they sounded that conch shells. So a very simple shloka where it is just saying what has been done. Next we will see who blew what conch, etc. A quick one to catch up here is Arjuna's chariot. This was given to him by Agni Bhagwan, Lord of Fire. So what happens is there will be a yajna in which, because of excessive ghee, the Agni will start losing its strength. And Agni Bhagwan will come to Lord Krishna and Arjuna and ask for more to be fed before we lose the Agni as a whole. So they take it up to Indraprastha and they start, they kind of offer the entire forest, which will be ruled by Daksha, a Naga king, and a friend of Lord Indra. Right. Now what Indra does is, oh no, okay, this is what it is, then I will put the rain on. Right. So as soon as he puts the rain on, Arjuna will pick up the fight with Lord Indra, his own father. Right. And he wins it. In thanking him for that particular support, Agni Bhagwan gives the divine chariot to Arjuna. The chariot is described with several horses that would never get tired. There are several places where they show or even talk of 4 horses, but they say that they represent the 4 Vedas, for example, or 5 horses, and so on. Right. So there are several ways, for the indriyaas they use Vedas, for 5, and Vedas they use 4. Right. I think these 2 are the ones that I have seen, but basically the scripture only speak of multiple horses. The horses would never get tired. That was another boon that he had. Now, regarding this chariot, the references are found in Sabha Parva, Udyoga Parva, as well as in Bhagavad Gita, which is Bheeshma Parva. Right. Not a single place I have seen that it is given with 4 horses. However, here the use of the word, right, is more than 2. Right. So Hayaihi, basically it means, see, in Sanskrit we have singular, dual, and plural. Right. So the use of Hayaihi makes it plural, which means it is more than 2. That far we can conclude from the scriptures. But to put it into 4 or 5 or whatever it is always, the person who is speaking, it is their convenience. There is no direct reference to it. In addition to it, the thing that holds the arrows, quiver, that is also given by Agni Bhagwan to Arjuna. So his arrows will never get exhausted. That is another boon that he gets from Agni Bhagwan as of it. Okay, so this is something that we have seen, so I'll just skip over and go to the 15th shloka. We have 10 minutes. We can perhaps touch upon this. Okay, shloka number 15. Paanchajanyam hrishikesho devadattham jananjaya paundram dadmau mahashankam bhima vrukodaraha. So this is again, who is blowing the conch? Paanchajanyam hrishikesha. The conch shell by name Paanchajanya was blown by Lord Krishna, Hrishikesha. Devadattam Dhananjaya. The conch shell named Devadatta was blown by Dhananjaya. Poundram is the name of the shank. Dadmo was blown, and now there is a, what do you say, adjective given for the shank, which is Mahashankam. Mahashankam signifies a very large in size. That is the most of the way, most of the people take it that way. But Maha basically signifies greatness, power, majesty, right? And it could be anything, right? So the shank could have been, it could have had some other, decorations or etc. to make it Mahashankam. I don't know. But the thing is, the way that it is said is all that Bhima does is, he is always represented with something big and powerful. And that is one of the things that also goes with his shank. And it is whose Bhima karma, one who performs Herculean task. He's not saying Bhima as a person here, Bhima karma. But the reference to Bhima is Vrukodaraha, one who eats a lot. And we have seen stories wherein he even sneaks during the night to go and eat. Right. And there are instances where tales where it is said that, Kunti used to divide the food into half, and the half would go to Bhima, and the other half will be split into four to go to the rest of the four Pandavas. So that is the extent to which the tales have spoken about the way that he eats. A very beautiful character in Mahabharata. Hrishikesha. This refers to 10 indriyas, which is 5 jnanendriyas and 5 karmendriyas. Remember, everything functions independently, but they do not create an association, a pravritti, if the mind is not behind it. Right? So, manaha is required. The best example that I have always said is, I'm just walking on in Washington Square Mall, and Jyotiji is coming in front of me, and I'm just walking by, right? And she comes up and says, hey, you're not even paying attention to me. What is this? Are you angry at me, or why are you ignoring me? The fact is, I was not ignoring anything of that sort. My mind was not behind my eyes. Though I saw her eye to eye, I was not there. I was kind of maybe in my own thoughts or something of that sort, and I just that figure did not get registered into my mind. This is an example that we generally give. So manaha is considered the lord to the indriyas. But manaha too is dependent on the atman. If there is no atman, there is no manaha. Right. So Paramatma is called as Hrishikesha because he is the Lord of the Hrishika. The value that we get is your indriyas and manaha are subordinate to the soul, to your soul, to you, but are independent as functionaries. Just keep this in mind. Always remember, okay, this is what it is. But when I want my indriya to work for me, it should be coming. That is the way it goes. Regarding Paanchajanya, what happens is Lord Krishna's guru, Sandipani, right? His son was abducted by a demon by name Paanchajanya. Right. Now, as a Guru Dakshana, Sandipani says, hey, can you bring my son back? So Bhagwan and Balarama go and fight the demon and get the bring the son back. They get the Shanka from Paanchajanya, right? And hence, after this demon by name Paanchajanya, and that is how he gets Paanchajanya. The story goes like this, where Paanchajanya would say that the son has already been sent to the abode of Yama, and Lord Krishna goes to the Yamaloka and requests the son to be returned and gets the son back and gives him to Sandeepani. But that is the side story, right? But the intent was to say that this is how the Paanchajanya came in possession of Lord Krishna. Devadatta, this Shank belonged to Varuna Bhagavan. So Maya will be saved from Khandava forest by Arjuna. Okay, it is the same, Takshaka who survives and kills Parikshit, right? It is connected to that particular story. Khandava is the forest where Takshaka was, right? So everything will come and coming all together. In return, Maya gives the mace used by Bhima, the Gandiva of Arjuna, and Devadatta. Now, yet again, the true Mahabharata does not reveal this story, but there are other, scriptures which speak of this particular story. In true Mahabharata, there is no reference on how he gets this Gandiva bow. Moving further, time is 7:28. So we will recite the shloka and take a break and go into questions. Shloka number 16. अनंत विजयं राजा कुन्तीपुत्रो युधिष्ठिरः नकुलः सह देवश्च सुघोषमणिपुष्पकौ. So as you would have seen, here again, we are talking in terms of the conch shells that were blown by others in the Pandava side. Right. Ananta Vijayam is the conch by Raja, here King Yudhishthira, which is Kunti Putro Yudhishthiraha. Nakulaha and Sahadevaha, they blew the conch by name Sughoshamani, Sughoshamani and Sughosham. Oh, so Mani Pushpakau. Right. So Sughosha and Mani Pushpakau, are the two conch that they both blew, is the way that it goes. But we will look into this shloka when we go in our next class. Okay. Let us stop for taking Q&As. Prabha?
No questions, Naresh. Good going.
Thank you. Jyoti ji?
Namaste, Nashji. I don't have any questions. We don't have any questions.
Thank you. Ravi Bhaiya?
Namaste, Uncle Ji. No questions. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, then we can conclude today's class and meet again next week. Harihi Om. Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnad Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Good night, everyone.
Namaste,
Thank
Nashji.
you.
I had a question, but I will ask
I
it
didn't
next.
see. I didn't see you. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
No
Okay.
problem, Nashji. Next week I will ask, because anyway, I think we are going to continue here, right? So
No, you can definitely ask. We do have time, but I'm okay with next week also. Or you can even send it to me, and
yeah, sure.
I
Yeah.
will take it up as the first one. So the problem is the chat is not showing all the names. That is how I missed it. Only the 4 names were shown on the top. I had to pull it down to see your name. So my
No
bad. Next
problems.
time I
No
will.
problem at all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Shubhaji. Good
Yeah.
night.
Namaste.
Thank you. Namaste. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Namaste to all.
Bye.
Okay. Good night. Thank you.
Good night, everyone. Bye.
Bye.